Hey guys, it's Manga here with a new video, and in this video I'm going to be talking to you guys about how to get rid of your same face syndrome, at least for those who have that issue. So here in this video I'm just going to be talking to you guys about how you can maybe prevent yourself from having some generic faces and things of that nature. Maybe in your series you end up drawing a similar face each time regardless of what character it is, and it just doesn't seem to work, and everything just feels a little generic and bland and not charismatic enough to keep your story engaging, and keep your characters kind of diverse from each other, not just in ethnicity but like diverse in every sense of the word, being diverse. And it kind of gets boring after a while if you keep seeing the same face over and over and over. So there are lots of people who have their own ways that they say and how to avoid this. I'm just going to be giving my anecdotal examples of what I feel works, or basically what has worked for me. First off, this is not, say, sometimes we see characters and they're drawn the same way over and over again, or not characters drawn the same way, but like you have certain characters and everyone kind of looks alike to a certain degree. That's, you can attribute that to, say, maybe the style of the artist, just showing. But I'm talking about regardless of the style, and it being distinguishable and you using that style to know which artist it is. I'm talking about all the characters literally looking so similar to each other, regardless of whether they're antagonist, protagonist, side character, whatever it is, and everyone kind of has the same face. The goal here is to kind of like get away from that. Now, this is assuming that you kind of have defined your style at least to some degree. And one of the things that helps is to say, let me see here, drawing this face and just drawing something really similar, and have a character here just putting in his eyes. But let's say you have your style, and in a face you have, if you've developed your style to a certain degree, then you can break your style into several parts. So the first steps I would say is almost treat your drawings or your style as an avatar. And I've talked about this before, and maybe defining your style or developing your style, one of those videos, I'll link to them. But it's almost like treating your characters like an avatar. So imagine this empty head, right? Imagine this empty head, and just give a little ear, some ears here, and that might also change. Now the shape itself could be considered an avatar. So maybe in your style you usually have this shape of head, but you can also have other shapes of head and heads, and then explore with that. Maybe something a little more elongated, something a little more round. Maybe the person has a little weight, got a little chunk on them, or whatever. So it's almost like you're having this library of shapes of heads that you can pick from, and already the characters are going to be different. And then maybe you have a sort of eyes, right? And it's all under your style, but maybe there are several ways you draw eyes, even down to the pupil or the iris or anything like that. So here we have something where you can see the dot, put a little highlight here, and you can see the eye shine and all that. But maybe sometimes you draw eyes and it's just a dot, and maybe sometimes you draw eyes and maybe the eyes are a little bigger. And this can all be within your style. It's almost like having a library of several ways you draw the same thing, and you can like pick and choose depending on the character. Same thing for noses, maybe something a little more a thicker nose, like so, or maybe you have your typical pointy nose, or maybe you have a nose where it's really stretched out, and maybe the nose has a shape of a triangle. And sometimes in character design, the shapes of certain things can tell you a little bit about the character. I'm not going to go into too much detail about the shapes, but sometimes you see things like triangles, usually for like maybe cunning characters, and maybe circles, enduring, squares for maybe reliable. There's like a long list, and depending on your style, you may not even use that at all. It's just sometimes people use that technique when designing characters or designing damn near anything. So you can think about stuff like that, and once you have that library of several things you draw, then you can come together and then pick and choose. So rather than giving, say this is a different character, maybe there's a different way you draw, say, hair, and let's turn this into an afro, and maybe you do a different kind of hairstyle for him. We already different. Then if it goes back to the head shapes, if we change the shape of his head just a little bit, it's just a little, not even too chunk, but just a little bit, and maybe the shape of his mouth too, his eyes, maybe you got different way of putting eyes together. And so far already, and these are just like ways I draw certain things, and so far already the characters, while it still might look like, oh, it's the same artist that drew it, the characters themselves look very, very different from one another. And even though I gave him another different expression is also another way to achieve this, right? But once you treat everything you draw as like avatars, and then you're kind of like picking and choosing what you want. Say we change the nose too to maybe another way I draw noses, and put that together, already we have a different face, right? So that's one way to do it. The shape of it, treating everything down to the shape of the head, the shape of the eyes, and things like that. You get like the characters are not going to be looking the same. I see in a lot of series, well, not a lot of series, a lot of young artists who are coming up, and a lot of the characters kind of look the same, have the same height, have the same weight. So like you can like think of everything as avatars. It's almost like you're creating your own avatar in an RPG, and how you can pick and choose. You get these options, and you can think of your style like that, and then you can pick and choose. So when you do stuff like that, that also includes, say, accessories. So I can give my character here some earrings. You know what? I'm going to erase what's below. And even though I change the shape of it, let's choose, it's a little chunk, whatever. But the accessories accessory could be damn near anything. Sometimes maybe adding some chains. And right now I'm not really focused on making sure the accessories fit the character, because you don't want to give certain accessories to characters that it just doesn't make sense for them to have those things. So accessories could be, anything adding on to this character, or sometimes it could be things like freckles, or say an eye patch. You see some characters who have that going on. It could be an eye patch. It could be anything, really. It could be rings, a beard. You can also play with the age of the character. Once you know the age of the character, that can also help differentiate. So if we made him look maybe a little older, that can help. Maybe put a little more beard on it, and maybe some lines in the forehead can help. This can also apply to the ears. Some people have ears like so, and maybe if the person is a different species, then you can also play with the idea of them having maybe long elf kind of ears. It's up to you. It's avatars down to the hairstyle, and you can play with the volume. So maybe even if another character has the same kind of hairstyle, but then you can play, maybe that person's afro is much bigger and maybe a little more trim. It's really up to you how you want to do things. And then you add it. So that's just like adding accessories. Like I said, accessories could be, it could even be down to maybe they have a birthmark, and those things help distinguish the character from other characters. Birthmark, tribal marks, you basically have free game in that department. So those are things that help. I already talked about hair, I've talked about that, height, weight, and another thing is the spacing. Say if I drew this same character, right, but the distance in between, say, his eyes and his nose and mouth is slightly different, that can change the whole game. So if I was trying to draw the same head. We have that. We've already picked the shape of it a little bit. Kind of know what's going for it. And this kind of also, when you treat your stuff as avatars, it also helps you be able to draw the character over and over again, because you're just drawing the same thing and just moving it, placing them where you see fit. But okay, do this. Basically, trying to draw the same character in the same style. I got the eye patch now, so let's put the eye patch. I don't have to worry about this eye. You got in the fight. You got the la, and you got the drawing his nose. But here, if we try to be a little different, and now this time I'm trying to say, let me see. I'm trying to make him look different. What I'm talking about with spacing is, say, play around with the distance between, say, his eyes. If we bring those closer, it'll also look like it'll also significantly look like a different character. It will not look like the same character. So here, it kind of looks like the same character so far, right? But if we messed around with the spacing and a little distortion, even if it's the same type of eye, the spacing changed a lot. You know? And also, if you're stretching things out, say it's the same kind of nose, but we're stretching it out just a little bit. If you want to play around with the mouth as well and add a little touch to make the beard slightly different, and you get different results. So spacing is another thing that helps. Obviously, colors help, and sometimes people use colors to foreshadow certain things about the characters, where the fundamental colors help accentuate what that character is, so it gives off information about that character. But that's not the point in this video. This video just to help people differentiate between characters. There's sometimes where I'm reading a series, especially from like young creators, that ask me to, say, review their work for them. Sometimes it's hard to keep track of what character is what, because they kind of all look alike, to maybe look alike a little too much. I've seen series where nobody has a beard, nobody's like bald, nobody's one of the things I would advise is to kind of experiment a little bit with all that stuff. And then expressions, you see this bland looking guy, you see this expression here. Sometimes to differentiate, let's say you have characters that are twins and you want to differentiate with them, and they're really identical, and one of the easiest ways to do that would be the expressions they have. So play around with that guy, and if, say, maybe they are characters that have those lazy eye kind of things and always look like they're not interested in whatever's going on, you can do that too. See that changed things dramatically. So expressions they can also help give you a sense of what the character is going to be like, but they can also be used to differentiate between characters and give a certain diversity to how the characters look. Also, when under colors, going back to colors a little bit, before expressions, colors of skin. If you have an alien there, you have blue skin, or just people that are diverse. Maybe you have a character of color, maybe someone's black, and things like that. Those are things you can play around with. And here I'm just going to add one more accessory to this character here, because accessories could be capes, hats, it could be a lot of stuff. And if we make him a little less bland, maybe he wears like a baseball hat. I don't really watch baseball, but this made him a little more, all this stuff also makes the characters a little more unique. Got that. Maybe, obviously that's like a little band-aid thing. Maybe he's been a little roughed up a little bit. And that also gives off some information about what kind of character this is, or what kind of character we're dealing with here. And hopefully these things helped. Just to recap, we talked about treating your style as like avatars, and I go into more detail with my video on how to consistently draw the same character over and over again without having them look different each time. and then adding accessories, playing with the hair, maybe the weight of the character. So even when it comes to that avatar stuff, it can go down to the shape of the person's body. You don't want all your characters to have the same height, the same weight, the same, or even be the same gender all the time. And you want to spice things up when you can, right? So you have that, and maybe you have, let's draw female a little bit. Draw a generic female body looking thing, and got that. And maybe you play around with the heights. Maybe someone's not that tall, right? And you play around with that a little bit. Or someone is tall and they're big and they're huge, and maybe the size of their hands is like really huge. So you play around with a lot of stuff, and things will pop up. Things will look different. Maybe he doesn't have that much of a neck, because of his body shape and things of that nature. Things can get really interesting once you play around with these, and you have like a vast array of shapes to play from that are still true to your style, but then you can treat it like an avatar and then apply them to characters, making them pop out. Everyone's kind of different. There's a sense of diversity and life to your style without everything feeling very bland and boring if you see it over and over again. And we talked about spacing, the weight and height of the characters, playing around with your style, playing around with the expression of it. That just gives it a little life for you. And I think those are the key things that you can play around with, that really the issue of drawing the same kind of face over and over again. I hope you guys enjoyed this video about kicking the butt of same face syndrome, and I hope this helps you a great deal. Don't forget to like this video if you want more videos like these. Leave a comment if you have any questions, and don't forget to hit that bell to stay notified each time I upload anything. Also hit the subscribe button, and if you watch this video to the end, that helps a great deal. I hope you guys continue to do so. Everyone who has supported me in any way by watching this video, subscribe to the channel, purchasing Apple Black, my comic that I publish and serialize, or Saturday AM, or any of the projects that I'm involved with, or follow me on any social media. Big thank you to you, and I hope you guys continue to support. Every support and love shown my way is highly appreciated. Apple Black Volume 2 is on the way, and the details for Apple Black Volume 2 are coming really soon. This is Whyt Manga, and I'm out.